anyone had ever set foot on another world. Neil Armstrong did. He became the first human to walk on the moon, taking a single step that marked one of the greatest milestones in human history. But behind that step was a long journey filled with discipline, danger, and quiet determination. Neil Armstrong was born in 1930 in Wapakoneta, a small town in Ohio. As a young boy, he was drawn to the sky. At just 6 years old, he experienced his first airplane ride during a local fair. That brief moment in the air left a lasting impression. While most children of his age were dreaming about toys, Neil was reading books on aviation and sketching airplanes in his notebook. By the age of 16, before he could legally drive a car, he had already earned his pilot's license. His love for flying led him to study aeronautical engineering at Purdue University. His college education was interrupted when he was called to serve in the U.S. Navy. There, he flew combat missions during the Korean War, surviving several close calls and developing a calmness under pressure that would later define him. After the war, Armstrong became a test pilot for high-speed experimental aircraft, including the X-15 rocket plane, which pushed the boundaries of flight at altitudes near the edge of space. His precision, quiet focus, and ability to stay composed during emergencies earned him deep respect within the aviation community. These traits made him a perfect candidate for NASA's astronaut program. In 1962, Neil Armstrong joined NASA as part of the second group of astronauts. His first spaceflight was Gemini 8 in 1966, a mission that tested docking procedures in orbit. During the mission, a critical malfunction caused the spacecraft to spin out of control. Armstrong's quick thinking and calm action brought the craft back under control and saved both his life and his crewmate's. It was one of the most dangerous moments in spaceflight at the time and confirmed Armstrong's status as a trusted commander. 3 years later, he was chosen to lead Apollo 11, the first mission aimed at landing humans on the moon. On July 16, 1969, Armstrong, along with astronauts Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins, launched from Kennedy's Space Center in Florida. 4 days later, they reached lunar orbit. While Collins remained aboard the command module Armstrong and Aldrin boarded the lunar module named Eagle and began their descent toward the surface. Landing on the moon was not smooth. With boulders scattered across the designated site and fuel running low, Armstrong took manual control of the spacecraft and found a safe spot to land. At 2017 UTC on July 20th, 1969, the Eagle touched down. A few hours later, Neil Armstrong stepped onto the surface and spoke the famous words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." He and Aldrin spent over 2 hours outside the spacecraft. They collected rock samples, deployed scientific instruments, and raised the American flag. Meanwhile, millions watched from Earth, united and awed at what humanity had just accomplished. It was more than a technical achievement. It was a moment that changed how we saw ourselves. After safely returning to Earth, Armstrong became a global symbol of exploration. Yet, he never sought the spotlight. He resigned from NASA and went on to teach aerospace engineering at the University of Cincinnati. He valued privacy and rarely gave interviews, preferring to let his actions speak for themselves. When asked later in life how it felt to be the first man on the moon, Armstrong gave a simple answer. He said it was very tiring and that he had to take a nap. That humility defined him. He never saw himself as a hero, only as someone who had done his job to the best of his ability. Neil Armstrong passed away in 2012 at the age of 82. His legacy lives on, not just in history books, but in every rocket launch, in every child who dreams of the stars, and in the quiet belief that the impossible is always worth reaching for.